Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel, and today is going to be story time with Kay. Okay, so the biggest story of my life, basically, is the time the whole world banned me. I know that seems like an exaggeration to you, but to me, it felt like it. Back in 2017, I wrote a book called The Wild. And if you know me, this is kind of like what you know me for, like a lot of people do. It's how they found me, it's how they learned about me. Basically, The Wild it's kind of hard to say without getting banned on YouTube too. If you really want to learn about it, I'll put the link in my bio and you can go read the blurb or whatever. It's a very forbidden book. It takes place in the wilderness. Two people surviving against all odds, two people who shouldn't fall in love but do. It's complicated, it's messy, and it's very controversial. So that being said, whenever I wrote it, all I was doing was looking for more quality, forbidden romance books, because everything that I read was kind of cheesy and lacking on the plot, and I liked the forbidden, super taboo elements, but like I wanted to take out the cheese. Like I wanted emotions and depth and real suspenseful story or whatever. And so went out and decided to write this story. And I was so gung-ho about it. I wrote this book from Sunday to Sunday, so in a week, because it consumed me. I wrote like, 10, 12 hours a day. That's all I did until the book was done. And, and I talked to my best friend about it, and I was like, this is what the book's about. And she's like, ooh, that sounds so good. I can't wait for you to write it. I can't wait to read it. And I was like, okay. And so I sent it to her, and she's like, oh my God, it's so good. I love it. Yay, yay, yay. So we're cheering each other on because we think it's great. And my first inkling of maybe this was going to be a controversial thing was like whenever I told my husband the storyline, and he was like, what? You're going to write what? And I was like, it's going to be so cool. It's so cool. And he was like, okay. And then I sent it to my beta readers, and they were like, oh, wow. Like the story's good, but wow. And I was like, it's so amazing, right? I really loved the book. I really did. And since then, not even joking, I've probably read it 20 times because I wrote the book that I wanted to read. It wasn't out there and I wanted it. So anyway, we go along and I get the book edited and get it formatted and get it all ready. And I put it up for pre-order. It was going to be in KU on Amazon and, just all the things. I really still was clueless about the impact this book was going to have on my life. And so I was like, let's just, put it out there. No big deal. Just like all my other books. Anyway, so it came time to be sent out to the bloggers. And so I sent it out to all the bloggers. I never limit myself on, bloggers. I just try to send it out to everybody. And so I'm sure like hundreds went out. And the teasers and the blurb was very intriguing and people were really interested in it. And I was getting lots and lots of pre-orders. Well, then it went out to the bloggers, and then all of the sudden I start getting feedback like, can you believe what this girl wrote? Oh my God. And I was like, oh, okay, awkward. But then it exploded, and the book hadn't even gone live yet, and it basically went wild on social media, which is really funny considering the title of the book is The Wild. But and to be clear, I did put a humongously long warning that was like basically like, if you have any trigger warnings, don't read this book because it's probably going to offend you in some way or trigger you or upset you. Like, oh, it's only for people like me who wanted something really dark and taboo. And that's not what happened. It got into the hands of all the people who it maybe thought that they could read this kind of thing and ignored the warning, and so I thought, well, whatever. And I felt like it was a good book and it was well written, so I figured, if they'd give it a chance, they'd probably like it. Well, anyway, the bloggers were, half and half. Some people were like, oh my God, this is so intense and so crazy and so cool. And some people were like, you are the trash of the planet, and I'm going to take it to Twitter, and we're going to smear your name across all the platforms. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was handling it. It was fine. And then it got to where it finally went live, and I was nervous because everything was happening, and it was being all, it was being talked about, and it was, I don't like to be the center of attention. People were saying that I wrote this book for sensationalism, which I didn't. I wrote it because I wanted to read it. And so I was kind of like, I did not like this kind of negative spotlight. It was very, very awkward. And I thought, well, if I just be quiet and let it, ride, they'll forget about me because I'm just a nobody, and they'll move on to something else because that's what they do. So, oh gosh, it was just so traumatic. It was so traumatic. Traumatic and dramatic. Anyway, so the book goes live at, midnight or whatever. And so many people reported it all at once that it got banned like within 4 hours. And in that 4 hours of time, it made thousands of dollars, like, from the pre-orders. And then, not even joking, I had hundreds of returns just like that, because once the people found out what it was about, they didn't want that book anymore. And so they returned the book. Anyway, so it got banned. Boom. And I was like, well, that sucks, but it's okay. I'll figure something else out. I don't want the attention anymore. They can just, go along. But it didn't like stop. It just exploded. And I started getting unfriended from a lot of authors, which was really kind of sad because, I hadn't really done anything mean to these people. So I didn't really understand why they were unfriending me. But, I still was like, it's just a book, I had people tell me I should have my kids taken away from me. And wasn't I worried? And I was like, no, it's fiction. I mean, nobody takes away like other people's kids that write about, thrillers and stuff where people are getting offed. Like, I don't understand why my book is the one that's so bad. Meanwhile, the biggest thing out there was Game of Thrones, and there's nothing any more worse in my book that's what's in Game of Thrones. So whatever. Anyway, so then, so it was going wild. I was getting unfriended. People everywhere were making these big long posts about, basically how terrible it was, and I broke the rules. And, to be clear, Amazon's rules are ambiguous. But, I can see obviously why they wouldn't want it on there. So, anyway, but my paperback was still up there. And so then all the people started going to buy the paperback because all these people were hearing about it, and they were like, well, I want to read that book. And, it was already banned. And so, and all of this, right when it happened, I kid you not, people were blowing up my inbox. I was getting like hundreds of messages a day that I was having to respond to because people were either like, I hate you, get off the face of the planet, you're a piece of trash. And then the other half of the people were like, oh my God, I want this book. How do I get it? Can I come to your house and grab a copy, because they wanted it so bad. So it was very just like I felt like I couldn't really shut it down because I had so many readers that really, really wanted to get it. And then I had all this hate. So it was kind of like, it was very, very stressful to deal with. Plus, my career was on the line. Like, is this going to make or break me, but I am a very stubborn person, and I did like the book. I still love the book. So I was kind of like, I still don't know why you guys are all mad. It's just a book. So anyway, the paperback, people just started flooding because they could get to the paperback. And I mean, I was selling a lot of paperbacks, so much so that I was like getting like an orange banner on Amazon for my paperback sales, which is really hard to do on paperbacks because everybody wanted this. And so they were buying up the paperback. Well, then it got reported, and then they took off the paperback, and I was like, oh darn. And so in the meantime, I'm like trying to figure out how to print this book because they didn't just take it off of Amazon, they blocked it from the printer. And so then I was like, well, now I can't even print the book. Like, what do I do? So then someone's like, oh, you got to go to Smashwords. They'll put it up there for you. You can do this. And I was like, okay. So I went and put the ebook up on Smashword. Meanwhile, it was getting banned off. Like, I tried to put it on like Apple and Barnes and Noble and all that stuff, and it was getting banned every which way. And I was like, okay, well, obviously I can't put it anywhere. I'm going to have to, try the Smashwords and see what they do. So I opened an account, set up my little Smashwords, put my little thing up. I kid you not, I made like, boom, thousands of dollars within like hours of people trying to get this book. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying like how many people wanted this book. And then like I went in to log into my account there and it was completely gone. And I was like, oh my God. And so I messaged the guy and I was like, you had me showing like thousands of dollars here. And I really hope I get paid for that because you gave my book to people. And they were like, oh yeah, we're going to pay you tomorrow. And they did. They just cleaned their hands of me, paid me the next day, and that was it. I was like, okay, but I was happy because I got my money. But I was still like trying to figure out like, how am I going to get these books to people? And meanwhile, my inbox is just blowing up. And it's like big authors saying, we support you. We can't like go out there and say anything because we don't want to like jeopardize our own careers, but just know that we stand behind you. And so it was very like uplifting and motivating, and that stubbornness kind of won over. And I was like, who are these people to tell me that I can't put my book out there? Like I get it. These platforms have their rules, but attacking me as a person and saying I'm this terrible person and my book shouldn't exist basically was really annoying to me. And so annoying's the nice word. But so anyway, every day I just kept trucking along, and I was very, careful not to, because everybody wanted to know the gossip. They wanted to know the scoop. Just, in Romancelandia, that's how people are. They just want to know what happened and who said what and who did this and who did that. And, I'm not a gossiper. And so when they would come at me and I'd be like, oh, my book got banned, but let me tell you how I'm going to get it to you, if you're really wanting to read it or whatever. So I was answering all of those messages, like hundreds a day. In the meantime, I was so stressed out and I couldn't sleep and I was crying all day because I was so stressed out. And my kids were like, what's wrong with you, mommy? And my husband's like, I'm going to go after all these people, because he was so like, like protective of me, because, like he's the alpha male, like in all of our books. And, I'm the damsel in distress and he's used to protecting me. And I literally had to say, let me do this my own way, because it has to be done very delicately. And I can't have you coming in there and telling everybody that, they need to, whatever he was going to do was not going to be good. And so I said, let me handle it on my own. I'm not going to roll over and let people walk all over me, but I'm also not going to go to war. So I just kept on trucking along and was very polite. I didn't say anything, and then I had a couple times where people were like, oh, you're allowing drama in your group. But, when all of this stuff's happening at you and it's just all at once, it's hard to control what other people are saying or monitor things. And so, it was very stressful. Like, they're like, oh, you're allowing, all this drama to happen. And I'm like, whatever. So it got to the point where I had to like lock down my group and I couldn't let people post or anything. And I had to have my best friend go in there and just monitor all of the posts, because it makes sure that that nothing was escalating that we could control on my page and in my group. So we were, constantly doing the damage control, but in the meantime, still trying to get these people the books, because they wanted these books like yesterday. So I figured out how to order more. I just went in and created a new ISBN number and at the printer at the time and printed more. And I just kept it as a personal copy so nobody could ban it. And so then I started like ordering hundreds of copies of the paperback, because people wanted the paperback. They didn't want the ebook. They wanted the paperback in their hands because they were afraid it would like disappear. And so I was ordering tons and tons of those. And then, meanwhile, fighting all the, terrible things. And the thing with like a big drama like this is people don't just say, oh, that's a terrible book, you shouldn't read that, or you shouldn't write that. People are very vindictive and evil and nasty. I mean, they try to destroy you, like your whole entire, like career. Like I had a book deal that was going on with a publisher, and they took to Twitter and were tagging the CEO of this company, saying, how can you work with somebody like this? And to the point where the editors and stuff had to come to me and say, what happened? And I was like, this is what happened. And they're like, well, we need to read this book. And I was like, okay, awkward moment. So I sent them the book, and she came back and she's like, I read it, I presented it to the board of people or whatever, and there's nothing that should, you know, there's nothing we can do. And we scoured your social media and you didn't say anything mean or nasty or rude. You didn't, I mean, like they were looking for a reason and they couldn't. And they were like, well, just keep going with you. And I was like, okay. So my my deal didn't get tossed. So that was good. But I mean, people were actively trying to do what they could to, you know, get my stuff pulled down. And then it got to the point where I was starting to get mad, because it's like, you know, this is like, I'm trying to make a living, and there are people who want to read this book, and you're shaming them and you're shaming me. And, you know, it's just out of control and over the top. Like, just don't read it. Go read something else, you know, or whatever. Like, this is just, I just didn't understand what the big deal was. And again, I warned people and they went and read it anyway. So, all of that happened, and it went on for months. And I mean, I lost like 15 pounds in 2 weeks because I couldn't eat because I was so stressed out. It was just such a stressful time. But some good things that came out of it was I got like 2,000 new followers on my Facebook page, like within a day of doing that book. And even though there was a lot of like popular people like saying terrible things about the book, there was that like 10 times as many more people that were coming to come get the book. You know, they weren't saying anything on social media, but they were coming to, you know, get the book. They wanted it. And a lot of people said, you know, I don't read this kind of stuff, but I also don't believe in censorship or, you know, people like this whole mob mentality. So I just want you to know that I support you as an author writing whatever she wants. And then later they'd come back and be like, well, I went ahead and read it because I was curious and I loved it. And so I got so many new readers because they loved the style of writing and the daring, you know, aspect of the book. It wasn't done for sensationalism. It was just, I wanted something different and just forbidden. Like, I just like reading really forbidden, weird things. I love aliens. I love, you know, just all the things. And so this was just another one of the, you know, strange little things that I was interested in reading at the time. And so anyway, and I still joke with my best friend. I'm like, you told me this was okay. But, you know, I have so many readers that I have gained from the wild that, you know, looking back on all that stress, I'm like, okay, it was definitely worth it. At the time, I was like, what did I do to myself? You know, this is so stressful. But anyway, in the midst of all of this, my super awesome, she's actually my co-writer, Nicole Blanchard. She also owns a PR company, and she does like my website and stuff, but she co-wrote all of my alien books with me. But way before there were alien books, she was my web designer, and she tirelessly worked on getting the wild up on my website to sell the paperbacks. Well, first we started with the form, but at first we did the ebook was on my website, so they could go and buy it through there because they couldn't buy the ebook anywhere else. So she got that all set up, and then it was like this learning curve because now I was sending this file to people who didn't know really how to get an ebook to their Kindle. And so then I was spending all hours of every day as tech support, you know, so every email that came through, there'd be like, I can't get this to my device. Oh my gosh, you know, I want my money back. And I'd be like, okay, calm down. I will give you your money back, or I can like help you get it to your Kindle. And 9 times out of 10, they were like, oh yeah, I really do want the book. And I'm like, okay, let's just pause for a second. Let me help you. And so we got those books to everybody, and people read them, and I feel like that really just gave me like a really solid like fan base of people, and it also made me smarter. Like, when it came to publishing, because since then, like the book that I did after that was also a controversial book was called Hail. And this one I was like, okay, this one is not going on Amazon or any of the other retailers because it's actually worse than The Wild as far as like, you know, the lines that it crosses. So I'm not even going to go through all that mess. It's going straight to my website. And it did. It went straight to my website. And when I announced it to my newsletter, they crashed my website. And I blew up with paperback orders, but I was ready. Like I, you know, had it all ready. Anyway, back to The Wild. After that, I had a book signing a few weeks later, and I was really nervous because of a lot of the, you know, terrible things that were being spewed my way. I was like, okay, you know, what if people, you know, throw eggs at me or throw their Starbucks coffee at me? You know, I was really stressed out. And my husband looked at me and he said, do you really think I'm going to let anybody throw anything at you? And I was like, ooh. So, you know, it was very good to have like that strong support, like nobody's going to mess with you on my watch. And so he was very, you know, supportive and, you know, didn't let me worry too much about that. And in the meantime, I was getting some more nasty messages. And this one girl messaged me like, you're the scum of the earth and, you know, all this stuff. And then the next day she was like, I just wanted to let you know that I'm very, very sorry. I don't know what possessed me to write that, but that's not me. I hope you didn't read that message or whatever. And I was like, it's okay. I understand people get fired up and, you know, the mob mentality is a thing. Like everybody gets fired up all at once. And maybe you say things that you don't necessarily mean. In that moment, you're just fired up. And so they were like, yeah, you seem really nice. And I'm like, I am nice. Like I can write crazy things and be a normal, nice mom from Oklahoma, you know, like I am not my books, you know, I just write these stories. So, anyway, we make it to the book signing and I was so nervous because there was a couple people that had even unfriended me at that book signing. And I was like, this is awkward. This is embarrassing. But it was the first time that I ever had a line where people had to get bracelets for, because so many people wanted to get The Wild. And this was right on the heels of when it all like exploded. So it was very, it was such a good thing for all of those readers and all of those other authors to see that, you know, just because it seems like their world is collapsing, it doesn't mean that it is. Like it, you know, it's okay to branch out and try new things. And if, you know, the whole world seems like they're trying to ban you or attack you, it's okay because you could still be successful. And that's, I mean, it was like proof in the pudding. And my line was just like crazy. And I had people that were like going to the coordinators and being like, is she going to have The Wild? Like, I don't want to miss out on this opportunity and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I was prepared and I brought hundreds of The Wild. We didn't run out because I brought so many, I mean, boxes and boxes and boxes full because I felt like it was going to be okay. Anyway, over the course of the last, almost 5 years, I guess, since that happened, I've grown my website. It's a full functioning bookstore since then. Out of the ashes of all of this, I got an agent, which, you know, led me to get lots of audiobooks done and foreign translations and just all kinds of fun stuff. Like I said, I got tons of new readers, you know, just respect in the community for just keep trucking along and all of that. And then in the middle of all of that, you know, I'd even said to my husband, too bad we can't build our own platform, you know, where people can publish whatever they want. And he was like, yeah, you know, cause he's an IT guy but it was just like too overwhelming. But then Robin Crawford with Eden Books, she had that same thought and she actually had the oomph to go forward and do that. And she opened up Eden Books and I had a couple books like we did, on when they released, me and my friend Danielle James, we did like Dragonflies, which is a super forbidden book. and the ebook can only be bought on Eden Books, and we launched on that website, and then you can get the paperback from our websites. But that's another one that we did. And, you know, these are all things that kind of sprung up from the wild. Since then, I've seen tons of, you know, authors getting out there and writing their forbidden stuff, and, you know, kind of learning from the things that didn't work for me, and or being inspired that, you know, it's okay to write what I want or whatever. And I do try to, you know, I get a lot of people that'll pop into my inbox and ask me, well, how did you handle this? And how did you handle that? And I really do try to, you know, give them good advice. Like, if you think it's going to toe the line, don't even put it on there. Take it straight to Eden Books. Take it straight to your website. And I feel like over the past 5 years or whatever, like, so many people have learned how to read besides just on their Kindle by downloading their, you know, Kindle book from Amazon. Like, they've learned how to go to an author's website like mine and get the ebook and put it onto an app or whatever. And so our readers have gotten real tech savvy in the last 5 years for sure. And I feel like this is the best time to just be like, you know, screw the other platforms if they don't want this. I'm just going to go right out of the gate and put it over here, and it's going to do well. I did After the Wild. It took me a while to write the follow-up, which was the Free, because I was still like emotionally raw. The Wild, I kind of like had to fight fire with that one, to protect it. And I really wanted to write the Free, which was another character in this world, but I just wasn't like mentally ready yet. But I did get ready for it. And then I also launched this one on Eden Books. It can be found on the ebook there. And then also the ebook and paperback is on my website. So I will provide the links for these. If you have never read my books and you stumbled across these videos, I'll put them in there because maybe you want to read a little bit more and see what they're about. Since then, I have another one called Love Trips. This is another one that's not Amazon safe or any platform safe. And then of course I've got like cool little stickers that say I read banned books, and like I have t-shirts that say I read banned books, and I kind of, you know, went with it instead of being shamed for writing it or letting it get me down. I grew from it and was like, you know what? This is my book. I'm proud of it. I like this book. Yes, it upsets some people. Yes, there's a big long trigger warning, so hopefully that keeps some of them out. But there's so many more people who do want to read it and are interested in these things. So I went with it, and you know, now I've got my little stickers and my magnets. I read banned books because, you know, people are proud. They like put these stickers on their Kindles, like, you know, they want people to know. They'll proudly wear their shirt that says I read banned books to book signings because, you know, they want to read whatever they want. So anyway, that's kind of a long story. I took up a lot of time talking about it, but a lot of people ask about it and, you know, want to know what happened and, you know, kind of want to know like the ins and outs. And basically, I just wrote a story that sounded really good to me. I still like the story. I still like the characters. I still get excited when I read certain scenes, and, you know, it's just intense and different. And I coined a phrase and I called it giggle cringe, because I read some parts and I'm like literally cringing, but giggling. Like, this is so just, oh, you know, it's cringy. Like, a lot of it's super cringy, but that's just what makes it like interesting and it's just different, you know? So anyway, that is basically the story of the Wild, and, you know, all of that to say that, you know, I could have let it get me down. I could have just pulled it and said, you know, I don't want to ever talk about this book again. You know, I could have just let it, cancel me completely, like just make me stop publishing or whatever. But, you know, I was like super stubborn, and I couldn't do that. And I even like published another book like 2 weeks later, and then like 2 weeks later, because I was like, you know, I'm just going to keep publishing books, and these people are going to get like, you know, tired of trying to get mad about this book because I have another book. Maybe they'll get mad at that one. So anyway, that's just been my attitude with publishing, is just keep on going, keep writing what you want, but be smarter where you're going to publish it. And I absolutely do fantastically well on my website. I have people that's all they come for, is the wild or the forbidden romance bundle that I have, because they want all the banned books. They always write me sweet notes in the messages like, give me all the banned books. It's really awesome to know that there's like a whole community of people that are supporting me and reading my stuff, and it makes it easier to, you know, handle the hate. It made me stronger as a person. It made me harder against things that people say about me or whatever. Like, it's kind of like, you know, you said all these things and you tried all these things and made me seem like a villain, but at the end of the day, I still was successful. I still made money. I still, you know, got a huge network of readers who were, you know, diehard readers for me. So I won at the end of the day. Like, I felt like I went to war and I won, and that was good, you know. And I feel like some people might have started out, you know, thinking, oh, she's so terrible, but then got curious and then read it and then liked it, or, you know, didn't think it was bad as it was. So, you know, I'm proud of those people for giving it a chance. I'm definitely proud of the people that give it a chance and love it and beg me daily for more. I'm proud of the people who are, you know, trying to write their own, you know, stories that aren't fitting inside the box. And, you know, it takes a lot of bravery to get out there and do it. And, you know, props to them. That is the story of the day. And if you have any questions, you can always pop them down in the comments and I'll try and answer them. I would like for you guys to stay wild and read this book if you're curious. Avoid it like the plague if, you know, books, you know, trigger you in any way, because it'll trigger you. But you will start chapter 2 and know this book is not for you. So that's how quickly you get into it. Yeah, if you have any questions, pop them in there. And again, I'm going to try to attach the links so that if you've never read it and you want to read it, you can get it. It goes viral on TikTok a lot, this book, because people are like, ooh, I want to read that book. How do I get it? Or they want this copy right there, which is the hardback, and it has the wild and the free in it is one, and it's beautiful and it's discreet, so you could put this on your coffee table and no one would know that this was a super forbidden book. Get that one on my website. So yeah, that's all I got for today, and I will see you guys next time, either with one of my lessons or another story time with Kay.